As I swirl the Cabernet in my glass, I smile at the notification lighting up my phone. Daniel has just transferred another $12,000 from our joint savings to what he thinks is a discreet account. Meanwhile, I'm finalizing the paperwork that will lock him out of every financial asset we share, plus the ones he doesn't realize I control. While he's booking a surprise getaway to Whistler with Olivia using our anniversary fund, I'm orchestrating a financial reckoning that will make the 2008 T crash look like a minor correction. He has absolutely no idea that his supposedly financially dependent wife has been Pacific Northwest Bank's vice president of risk management for the past 4 years. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. My breathing remains calm and measured as I sign another document while gazing through the windows of Sam's downtown law office. From here, I can see the gleaming storefront of Northwest Jewelers, where Daniel is currently selecting a bracelet for Olivia. The irony isn't lost on me. It's the same jeweler who designed my engagement ring 6 years ago, the same store that just triggered a $6,500 purchase alert on our joint credit card. "Elena, are you absolutely certain about the timing?" Sam asks, her expression mixing professional composure with personal concern. Her sleek glasses reflect the afternoon sunlight as she arranges another stack of legal documents across her mahogany desk. I turn my phone toward her, displaying Daniel's Instagram story posted just 4 minutes ago. Life rewards those who embrace opportunity. Blessed, living my best life. The photo shows a champagne flute in Northwest Jewelers' VIP lounge, his titanium Omega Seamaster visible at the edge of the frame, the watch I surprised him with for his 35th birthday last spring. The timing, I say, signing another paper, with a practiced flourish, is perfect. My phone buzzes with a text from Daniel. "Working late tonight, babe. Major client presentation. Don't wait up. Love you." I've archived every message like this from the past 8 months. Each one corresponds precisely with a credit card charge at upscale restaurants, boutique hotels, or designer stores. Charges I've meticulously traced. They align perfectly with Olivia's suddenly lavish Instagram posts, each one subtly hinting at her generous mystery man. What they don't know is that I've been aware for months. Every emergency client dinner, every late-night presentation prep, every suspicious withdrawal from our joint savings, I've documented it all. But unlike most betrayed spouses, I didn't confront him. I didn't dramatically toss his curated wardrobe onto our penthouse balcony or scratch his beloved Tesla. Instead, I did what I do best. I followed the money. This document here, Sam points to a particular page, will trigger the credit freeze once you sign. After that, there's no turning back. I think about this morning, how Daniel kissed my cheek before leaving for work, how he mentioned we should plan that trip to Napa Valley soon. Meanwhile, I'd already seen the Whistler reservations he'd made for next weekend. Not for us, but for him and Olivia, paid for with our anniversary fund. "Good," I reply, my signature flowing across. "The paper, that's exactly what I want." My phone illuminates with another notification, an Instagram story from Olivia showcasing a distinctive blue jewelry box captioned, "When he knows what you truly deserve." I screenshot it, noting the time and date. It matches perfectly with the purchase notification from our joint account, the one Daniel believes I never check. "The forensic audit team will begin Monday morning," Sam explains, organizing the papers. "Given what you've already uncovered about the account manipulations, they'll likely find twice as much." "They'll find 3 times as much," I correct her, pulling up a folder on my phone. "Here's every transaction he's tried to hide through. That shell company he created, Emerald Financial Services, the one where Olivia mysteriously became a financial consultant 3 months ago, despite her only professional experience being a part-time yoga instructor and wannabe influencer." Sam's eyes widen as she scrolls through the documents. This is extraordinarily thorough. I had plenty of free evenings, I say dryly. You know, with all his client meetings. As if on cue, my phone buzzes with a notification from our friend group chat planning a weekend barbecue. Daniel responds immediately. So sorry, everyone. Flying to Portland for an emergency client situation. Catch you next time. I suppress a laugh. I know about that emergency client situation, too. I've seen the hotel reservation in Whistler. First class. Tickets for 2 charged to our joint credit card. Last one, Sam says, sliding the final document across the desk. This initiates the comprehensive asset freeze and triggers the fraud investigation. Once you sign this, I don't hesitate. My signature flows across the page. Years of disappointment and betrayal channeled into each curve and stroke of my pen. Another notification pops up. Daniel going live on Instagram from what's supposedly his client meeting. Northwest Jewelers' distinctive lighting fixtures visible in the background. Let them celebrate, I say, standing and smoothing my silk Burberry dress, the one Daniel bought last month out of guilt. By Monday morning, they'll have a very different story to share. Sam gathers the papers, her expression both impressed and slightly unnerved. You know, in 15 years of handling financial disputes, I've never seen anyone quite as prepared, I suggest, picking up my bag. Or maybe just tired of being underestimated, she replies. As I walk out of the office, my phone buzzes one last time. Daniel sending his nightly check-in. Miss you, beautiful. Can't wait to come home to you. I smile, typing back. Sleep well, darling. Monday's going to be interesting. He'll think, it's just another loving message from his unsuspecting wife. But then again, he always did underestimate me. That's about to become his most expensive mistake. Little does he know, while he's been playing his games, I've been orchestrating a much more elaborate one. 4 years ago, when Pacific Northwest Bank was restructuring their executive team, I was promoted to Vice President of Risk Management. Daniel was too busy networking to attend my celebration dinner. He never bothered to understand what my role actually entailed. He never read the financial disclosure forms where I declared my position as an executive with oversight of fraud detection and prevention. The same position that gives me backdoor access to every suspicious transaction flagged in our system, including his. Monday morning can't come soon enough. The morning after signing those initial papers, I dress with precision. Theory silk blouse, tailored Hugo Boss suit, and the David Yurman bracelet Daniel's mother gave me last Christmas. The mirror reflects exactly what Daniel expects to see. His perfectly polished wife, the former English literature major he loves to introduce as his beautiful but financially clueless partner at company gatherings. If he only knew I've been running Pacific Northwest Bank's entire risk management division for the past 4 years, overseeing a team of 30 financial analysts and fraud investigators. Good morning, honey, I call out as he stumbles into our sleek kitchen, clearly hungover from last night's client meeting. Our espresso machine hums quietly, filling our $2.3 million downtown penthouse with the aroma of his favorite Ethiopian roast. I made your breakfast, I say sweetly. He kisses my cheek, reeking of expensive cologne and guilt. The same cologne I noticed in Olivia's latest Instagram story from their accidental run-in at Nordstrom yesterday. You're too good to me, babe. If only you knew, I think, sliding his coffee across our quartz countertop. The same counter where I sat until 2 a.m. last night on a secure video call with William Chen, our bank's top forensic accountant. William, who nearly spat out his whiskey when I showed him what I'd found in Daniel's private transactions. Another early meeting? I ask innocently, watching him check his phone. His lock screen is still our vacation photo from San Juan Islands last summer, but I know his background is Olivia. I've seen it reflected in his car window when he texts her during our dinner dates. Yeah, the Johnson portfolio is brutal right now. He runs a hand through his perfectly styled hair, distracted. The Johnson portfolio doesn't exist. I confirmed that Johnson and Affiliated moved their business to Wells Fargo 8 months ago. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Don't work too hard, I say, squeezing his shoulder. He doesn't notice me capturing Olivia's message about their lunch plans at the new gastropub in his phone's reflection on our stainless steel refrigerator door. After he leaves, I transform our home office. The framed photos of our wedding at Alki Beach disappear into drawers, replaced by printouts of bank statements, transaction records, and property documents. Sam sits cross-legged on my West Elm rug, surrounded by papers. Jesus Christ, she mutters, holding up a document. Did he really think he could hide these transfers behind a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands? I laugh, but there's no humor in it. He registered it under his childhood goldfish's name, Bubbles Financial Holdings. Sam shakes her head, adding the paper to our growing evidence pile. Men like him always think they're the smartest person in the room. That's because they never bother looking around, I reply, pulling up another document on my laptop. Look. At this. Every time he meets Olivia, he files it as a business development expense. 5-star hotels with a woman who's supposedly advising him on marketing strategies, despite not knowing the difference between SEO and a CEO. My phone buzzes, a group text from our friend Rebecca about her upcoming charity fundraiser at the Seattle Art Museum. Daniel responds immediately with another excuse. Olivia, I notice, has already marked herself unavailable on the event's planning committee list. They're getting careless, I observe, adding another screenshot to my collection. Have you talked to Judge Patel yet? Sam asks, referring to our friend who oversees financial dispute cases in King County. I nod, pulling up an encrypted email chain. She's ready. The moment we file on Monday, she'll randomly schedule an emergency hearing about suspicious financial activities. The same hearing that will reveal Olivia's company has been receiving consulting payments since before she even met Daniel. My phone lights up with Daniel's face, his daily check-in call. I answer with practiced cheerfulness, listening to him lie about his lunch meeting while I stare at their restaurant reservation confirmation in my email. The same email account he set up for me, thinking I'd only use it for online shopping. Miss you too, honey, I say, watching Sam roll her eyes. Don't forget we have dinner with your parents tonight. He pauses, and I can practically hear him texting Olivia to reschedule. Of course, babe. Wouldn't miss it. After hanging up, I turn to Sam. He'll cancel in about 3 hours, emergency client situation. How can you be so sure? I pull up Olivia's Instagram story from this morning, a cryptic post about a special sunset surprise at the new rooftop bar at the Four Seasons. Because I know their routine better than they do. The rest of the day unfolds like a carefully choreographed ballet. I attend my regular risk management meetings at the bank, make appearances at my usual lunch spots, even get my nails done at the salon where Daniel's sister goes. Everything normal, everything routine. No one would suspect that in my Toomey briefcase, I'm carrying documents that will dismantle a year of Daniel's careful deceptions. Right on schedule at 4:52 p.m., Daniel texts, Babe, I'm so sorry. Might have to rain-check dinner with my parents. Emergency with the Westlake account. I respond with just the right amount of disappointment and understanding, watching through my banking alerts as he makes a dinner reservation at Altura, his and Olivia's favorite spot for their strategy sessions. The Westlake account hasn't scheduled any meetings. I would know. I approved their last loan restructuring. Look what just came in, Sam says, holding up her phone. Olivia's posted a photo of champagne glasses at sunset, the Four Seasons' distinctive Space Needle view unmistakable in the background. Perfect, I say, adding the screenshot to our collection. That receipt will match beautifully with the emergency business dinner he's about to charge to his corporate card. As evening falls, I sit in our meticulously decorated living room, surrounded by evidence of Daniel's double life and my own careful documentation. Every lie, Every secret meeting, every hidden transaction, all of it meticulously cataloged and cross-referenced. My phone buzzes with another Instagram notification, Olivia wearing a new rag and bone dress that costs more than her supposed monthly consulting fee, captioned with a single key emoji. I save it to the folder marked Monday and pour myself a glass of Japanese whiskey from the collection Daniel thinks only he has access to in our bar cabinet. Let them have their romantic evening, I murmur, scanning through the latest transaction report William sent over. Let them think they're the clever ones playing their little game of hide-and-seek with the naive wife. I've spent months building this facade of ignorance, and in less than 12 hours, I'll have the pleasure of watching it shatter, along with everything else they thought they could take from me. The forensic accountants finished their preliminary review. Sam calls from the office, her voice tight with disbelief. You're not going to believe what they found in the Emerald financial accounts. I join her, my heels clicking against our Brazilian hardwood floors. On her laptop screen, a complex web of transactions unfolds, a masterpiece of financial deceit that would be almost impressive if it wasn't so staggeringly stupid. He's been transferring money through 3 different shell companies, Sam explains, highlighting various transactions, all registered under variations of his goldfish's name, then funneling it through Olivia's fake consulting firm and into private accounts in the Cayman Islands. I lean closer, a cold smile playing at my lips. Show me the dates of the first transfers. Sam pulls up a timeline, and my smile widens. Just as I thought, he started moving money the day after my promotion to VP was announced in the Seattle Business Journal. He never even bothered to read the article that clearly outlined my role in risk management and fraud prevention. My phone chimes with a message from Daniel's mother. Darling, are you and Daniel still coming for dinner? I've had Maria prepare his favorite salmon. Poor Margaret Mitchell, still believing her son is the same responsible young man who followed his father's footsteps into the business world. Wait until she discovers how her precious boy has been treating our shared finances. What about the bank's fraud prevention protocols? Sam asks, pulling up another document. Section 5, paragraph 2, I quote from memory. Any account holder found to be engaging in activities that indicate deliberate financial concealment can be subjected to immediate account restriction pending full investigation. Sam's eyes gleam. And with Olivia's social media trail, every post, every photo, every location check-in, all matching perfectly with suspicious withdrawals and consulting payments, I confirm, pulling up a carefully curated folder on my laptop. They've documented their own misconduct better than we ever could. My phone lights up with another check-in from Daniel. Just wrapped the emergency meeting, baby. Might be a late one. So much data to review. I text back, don't work? Too hard, darling. Make sure you eat something. Through the window, I can see the lights of the 4 Seasons, knowing they're up there right now celebrating what they think is their perfect deception. Daniel probably congratulating himself on how skillfully he's managed to hide his withdrawals. Olivia no doubt already planning how to spend more of our money. Judge Patel just confirmed, Sam says, checking her phone. The moment we file, she'll expedite the hearing. I nod, walking to our floor-to-ceiling windows. The Seattle skyline sparkles back at me, a constellation of lights that seems to mirror the intricate web of evidence we've woven. Elena, Sam's voice turns serious. Are you absolutely sure about the timing? We could wait until after his company's quarterly review next week. His entire executive team will be there. I turn back to her, thinking of the presentation I'd helped Daniel prepare, the one where he intends to announce his bid for the marketing director position, the same presentation where he and Olivia plan to accidentally meet, beginning their public story with a meet-cute his boss would approve of. The timing, I say, picking up another stack of documents, is exactly right. Let him stand in front of his entire company, ready to make his big announcement. Sam raises an eyebrow. Right before Judge Patel's bailiff serves him with the financial freeze papers? Poetic, isn't it? My phone buzzes again. A text from Olivia to our charity committee group. So sorry to miss tomorrow's meeting, everyone. Last-minute client. Emergency. The same meeting where we're supposed to discuss the annual Pacific Northwest Bank Foundation Gala. I add the screenshot to our evidence file, then pull up Daniel's latest credit card statement. The numbers that he thinks only he understands glow on the screen. If he'd ever bothered to really look, he'd have noticed that every large transaction, every unusual transfer, every withdrawal has been flagged in our bank system for the past 4 months. One alert to him, one to the risk management team. Me. I've watched every dollar he's tried to hide, every account he's attempted to obscure, every lie he's built his house of cards upon, all while playing the role he assigned me. The beautiful, naive wife who couldn't possibly understand the complexities of modern finance. His company's leadership meeting just confirmed. Sam checks another message. 9:00 a.m., Monday morning. Daniel is scheduled to present his marketing strategy and announce his bid for the director position. I smile, remembering the fabricated reports he's been working on, the inflated projections he's created to bolster his candidacy. Perfect. That gives Judge Patel's team plenty of time to arrive by 9:30. My phone lights up one final time for the night. Daniel sending a photo of paperwork scattered across what's supposed to be his office desk. Actually, the Four Seasons distinctive stationery visible in the corner. Still grinding, baby. Don't wait up. I text back a single heart emoji, then turn to Sam. Shall we finish preparing his wake-up call? For the next few hours, we meticulously review every document, every piece of evidence, every single detail of what's about to unfold. By the time Sam leaves, the sun is starting to rise over Elliott Bay, painting our living room in shades of gold that match the embossed letterhead of Pacific Northwest Bank. I hear Daniel's key in the door around 5:30 a.m. He tries to be quiet, but his designer loafers still click against the hardwood floors. I'm already in the kitchen, perfectly dressed, makeup flawless, starting the coffee maker. You're up early, he says, trying to hide his surprise and the faint trace of Olivia's signature Joe Malone perfume on his collar. Thought you could use some breakfast after your late night. I smile, sliding him a cup of coffee. Must have been some important client work. You know how it is. He waves vaguely, not meeting my eyes. Sometimes these things can't wait. Oh, darling, I think. Watching him check his phone under the table, no doubt messaging Olivia about their close call. You have no idea how right you are. Just a few more hours until Monday morning when they learn exactly what happens when you mistake silence for ignorance and underestimate the woman you thought you'd fooled. Monday morning dawns clear and bright, the kind of crisp autumn Seattle day that usually has tourists flooding Pike Place Market. I wake up at precisely 6:30 a.m., though I've barely slept. Daniel's side of our restoration hardware bed is empty. He'd left early, eager to prepare for his big presentation to the company leadership. If he only knew what else was being prepared for him. I dress with surgical precision, a charcoal Armani suit, his mother's favorite Jimmy Choo heels, a guilt gift from Daniel after a particularly expensive weekend with Olivia, and his grandmother's pearl necklace, a symbol of family legacy he's about to lose. Every detail matters today. Every piece tells a story. Morning, beautiful. Daniel's voice is unusually chipper when he calls at 7:45 a.m. Just wanted to check you're coming to the presentation, right? Thought you might want to see your husband's big moment. Wouldn't miss it for the world, darling, I reply, watching Sam send confirmation that Judge Patel has arrived at her chambers. Someone should be there to witness everything you deserve. He chuckles, missing my tone completely. That's my girl. See you at 9. I end the call and pull up the security feed from Vertex Technologies' offices. Amazing what being a banking executive grants you access to when your bank handles their corporate accounts. Daniel is already there, practicing his presentation in the conference room mirror, adjusting his Hermes tie with nervous fingers. On another screen, I watch Olivia enter her favorite coffee shop, no doubt planning to celebrate with Daniel after his triumph. Everything's in position, Sam texts. She's already at the courthouse with William, waiting for the perfect moment. Judge Patel is reviewing the final documents now. I check my watch. 8:15 a.m. Time to set the wheels in motion. My first stop is Pacific Northwest Bank's executive floor, where I've been a respected leader since my promotion 4 years ago. Daniel never bothered to visit. Boring bank stuff, he'd called it. His loss. Mrs. Mitchell, Thomas Warren, our CEO, greets me warmly. Everything is prepared as requested. I smile, taking a seat in his sleek office. And the timing? He slides a document across his glass desk. The moment you send the signal, every account Daniel has access to will be flagged for review. The fraud team is standing by. Perfect. I sign where indicated, my Mont Blanc pen, another of Daniel's guilt gifts, flowing smoothly across the paper. And his private accounts? I ask. Thomas allows himself a small smile. Already under surveillance. The moment the fraud alert hits, those freeze too. My phone buzzes. A message from Margaret Mitchell, Daniel's mother. Darling, I'm so proud of Daniel today, and so grateful to have you as part of our family. You've been such a blessing. If she only knew how much of a blessing I was about to be, saving her family's reputation from her own son's greed. At 8:45 a.m., I enter Vertex Technologies' gleaming office tower, nodding to security guards who know me as Daniel's wife, not realizing I'm actually a banking executive with more financial authority than anyone in their building. The elevator rides smoothly to the 30th floor. Daniel is waiting by the conference room, practically bouncing with nervous energy. You made it. He kisses my cheek, and I catch a whiff of Olivia's perfume still lingering on his collar. I've got such a good feeling about today. Oh, darling, I murmur, straightening his tie. You have no idea how memorable today is going to be. The Stow conference room fills quickly with executives and team leaders. CEO Jeffrey Palmer takes his place at the head of the table, looking every bit the tech visionary in his casual but expensive attire. Before we begin, Jeffrey announces, I want to thank everyone for being here for this important strategy session. As you know, we're discussing our direction for the coming year, and Daniel has prepared a comprehensive presentation on our new marketing approach. Daniel stands, straightening his papers with practiced confidence. His PowerPoint presentation glows on the screen behind him, slides full of fabricated projections and manipulated numbers that took him weeks to create. Good morning, everyone, he begins, flashing his 1,000-watt smile. Today marks a new chapter in Vertex's market presence. 8:59 a.m. My phone vibrates silently in my lap. Sam's message is simple. Ready. 9:00 a.m. Daniel clicks to his first slide, pointing out fabricated growth projections with practiced charm. As you can see, our social media engagement under my guidance has been exceptional. 9:01 a.m. I send a single text. Now. The effect is immediate but subtle at first. Daniel's phone buzzes in his pocket, probably a notification from his banking app. He ignores it. It buzzes again, and again, and again. 9:05 a.m. The conference room door opens silently. Judge Patel's bailiff enters, nodding to me imperceptibly. Behind him, 2 financial investigators take their places by the door. And if you'll look at these returns, Daniel continues, though his phone is now buzzing constantly. He's starting to look distracted, shifting uncomfortably. You'll see that our innovative approach to... His voice trails off as he notices Jeffrey, checking his own phone, frowning deeply. Other executives are doing the same, their expressions shifting from polite attention to confused concern. 9:07 a.m. The bailiff steps forward, official documents in hand. Mr. Daniel Mitchell? Daniel turns, annoyed at the interruption of his big moment. "I'm in the middle of something here. You are hereby served with an emergency injunction regarding financial accounts registered in your name," the bailiff announces clearly, his voice carrying to every corner of the suddenly silent conference room. "By order of Judge Patel, you are restricted from accessing all financial accounts pending investigation into serious allegations of fraud and misappropriation." The color drains from Daniel's face as he takes the papers with trembling hands. His phone is still buzzing, probably notifications of his accounts being frozen one by one. "There must be some mistake," he stammers, looking around the room desperately. His eyes land on me, seeking support, reassurance, the naive trust he's come to expect. Instead, he finds me calmly opening my laptop, pulling up the folders marked Evidence. "No mistake, darling," I say softly, turning the screen so the entire room can see. "Would you like to explain these transactions to your colleagues yourself, or shall I?" The first image appears on the conference room's main screen, replacing his fabricated presentation, a detailed spreadsheet of every dollar he's misappropriated, every lie he's told, every trust he's broken. Behind him, Jeffrey Palmer stands slowly, his face a mask of shock and growing fury. "Daniel," his boss's voice is deadly quiet. "What is this?" Before he can answer, his phone buzzes one final time. He looks at it reflexively, and I know exactly what he's seeing: a notification that his access to all financial accounts has been suspended. "Perhaps," I suggest, standing smoothly, "we should discuss the real state of affairs, starting with these unusual payments to a certain consulting firm." Daniel slumps into his chair as I take control of the presentation remote. Behind him, the financial investigators begin setting up their equipment. Through the conference room's glass walls, I can see Sam and William arriving with boxes of additional evidence. The day of reckoning has only just begun. "Let's start with this particular transaction," I say, clicking to the next slide. The screen fills with a detailed breakdown of a $87,000 transfer from our joint savings to Olivia's consulting firm, made on July 15th, exactly one day after Olivia's company was registered. Interesting timing, wouldn't you say? Daniel's hands grip the armrests of his chair, knuckles white. Behind him, Jeffrey Palmer has switched from shock to cold fury, his jaw clenched as he watches his promising employees' deceptions laid bare. "Of course," I continue, clicking through to the next slide. "That was just the beginning. Shall we discuss the offshore accounts registered under your childhood pet's name, or perhaps the series of business development charges at the Four Seasons that coincidentally match perfectly with these Instagram posts?" The screen fills with a carefully curated collection of Olivia's social media posts side by side with bank statements. Times and dates perfectly aligned, each champagne toast, each surprise gift, each luxury weekend mathematically matched with a suspicious withdrawal. "This is ridiculous," Daniel finally manages, his voice cracking. "These are legitimate business expenses. Jeff, I can explain." "Explain what, exactly?" I interrupt smoothly, pulling up another document. "How you started siphoning money from our accounts the day after my banking promotion was announced? Or should we discuss how you've been using our savings to fund your affair while planning to leave me?" A gasp ripples through the conference room. Margaret Mitchell, who had slipped in to surprise her son for his big presentation, presses a hand to her chest, her face pale beneath her perfect makeup. "Leave you?" she whispers. "Daniel, what is she talking about?" "Oh, you didn't know?" I turn to my mother-in-law with practiced sympathy. "Daniel and his financial consultant have quite the future planned. Paid for with our money, of course. Would you like to see the Whistler reservations, the jewelry receipts, or perhaps the apartment listings he's been browsing in Olivia's neighborhood?" Daniel lunges for his phone, probably to warn Olivia, but it's already too late. Through the conference room's glass walls, we can see her being escorted into the building by security, her designer handbag clutched to her chest like a shield. "Perfect timing," I murmur, checking my watch. Security does run quite punctually. Security? What are you? Daniel's voice rises an octave. Did you really think? I cut in, my voice carrying clearly across the stunned conference room, that you could steal from our accounts without consequences? That no one would notice your creative accounting? I'm the vice president of risk management at Pacific Northwest Bank, darling. And unlike you, I actually read the financial alerts. The investigators have set up their equipment, now efficiently downloading data from Daniel's company laptop. Sam stands at the ready with another stack of documents, the complete forensic accounting of every dollar Daniel has misappropriated. Mrs. Mitchell, one of the investigators calls out, we've confirmed the initial findings. The pattern of misappropriation is consistent with your report. Your report? Daniel's head snaps up. Who do you think has been documenting your theft all these months? I ask quietly. Who do you think has been tracking every lie, every secret meeting, every hidden transaction? The wife you thought was too naive to understand finance? The English major you believed would never question your business meetings? His phone buzzes again, probably Olivia being brought to the reception area for questioning. Through the glass, I can see her mascara-streaked face as she realizes the magnitude of their situation. I can fix this. Daniel stands abruptly, desperation creeping into his voice. Jeff, just let me explain. We can handle this internally. Sit down. Jeffrey Palmer's voice could freeze hell itself. You've done quite enough. Actually, I interject, pulling up another document. We're just getting started. Would anyone like to see the real impact of Daniel's deception on the company's marketing analytics? The ones he's been manipulating while presenting his creative fiction? The next hour unfolds like a perfectly choreographed dance. With each new revelation, each piece of evidence, each damning document, Daniel shrinks further into his chair. His carefully constructed world of lies crumbles slide by slide, dollar by dollar. The offshore accounts have been frozen, Sam announces from the doorway, and Judge Patel has approved the emergency audit of all personal assets. Daniel's head snaps up. Personal assets? You can't. Section 5, Paragraph 2 of the Banking Code, I quote smoothly. Any account holder found to be engaging in activities that indicate deliberate financial concealment can be subjected to immediate account restriction pending full investigation. Your father insisted I study banking regulations when I joined Pacific Northwest. Shame you never bothered to understand what I actually do for a living. A commotion outside draws everyone's attention. Olivia is being led to a separate room, her face a mask of panic as she realizes the serious nature of her situation. Through the glass, I watch her reach for her phone, probably to call the lawyer she thinks can save her. Don't bother, I call. Out, loud enough for her to hear through the glass. Your lawyer dropped you 20 minutes ago. Apparently, he has some concerns about being associated with financial fraud. Daniel stands again, this time moving toward the door, but the security team shifts smoothly to block his path. This is insane. You can't just... Can't what? I ask, my voice deadly quiet. Protect our savings from your greed? Prevent you from stealing more of our money? Or perhaps you're upset that I won't let you drain the accounts to fund your new life with Olivia. I click to the next slide, and Daniel actually flinches. It's a photo from last week, him and Olivia at Tiffany's, shopping for what appears to be engagement rings. The credit card charge for the store visit still pending in our account. Engagement rings? Margaret Bennett's. Voice is barely a whisper. While you're still married to Elena? Speaking of marriage, I continue, pulling up another document. Daniel, darling, why don't you explain to everyone why you've been meeting with divorce attorneys? Or should I share the preliminary separation agreement you had drafted? The conference room is deadly silent now, every eye fixed on Daniel as he realizes just how completely his plans have imploded. His boss stands slowly, every inch the powerful executive whose trust Daniel has betrayed. Get him out of my sight, Jeffrey orders, his voice trembling with rage. And call company legal. All of them. As security begins to escort Daniel from the conference room, his phone buzzes one final time. I know exactly what notification he's receiving. His access to Vertex Technologies' offices has been revoked, his keycard deactivated, his credentials suspended. 1 month later, the dust has finally begun to settle. I sit in my new office, the corner suite that once belonged to Thomas Warren, reviewing the latest risk assessment reports. The Seattle skyline stretches out before me, a glittering testament to the financial empire I helped protect from internal threat. The Wall Street Journal piece just went live, Sam announces, entering with her tablet. Today's headline: Banking. Safeguards: How Modern Risk Management Prevents Internal Fraud. Any mention of Daniel? I ask, though I already know the answer. Only as case study number 3. They're calling it the ultimate cautionary tale in financial ethics. Your quotes about protective oversight are featured prominently. I smile, remembering the interview I'd given last week. I'd been careful to focus on the importance of proper risk management rather than personal drama. Pacific Northwest Bank, after all, still had a reputation to maintain. My phone lights up with a notification from the prosecutor's office. Daniel's plea deal has been finalized. In exchange for a reduced sentence, he's agreed to provide evidence against larger financial fraud schemes he'd become entangled with. His new accommodations are quite a step down from the Four Seasons, Sam observes dryly, showing me the detention center's location, though I hear the orange jumpsuit brings out his eyes. Olivia sent another request, William adds, entering, with more papers. She's offering to write a tell-all about Daniel's schemes in exchange for immunity from prosecution. Tell her the federal prosecutors already have everything they need, I reply, pulling up our evidence files. Her Instagram posts provided more than enough documentation. Through my office windows, I can see the bank's fraud prevention team hard at work under my leadership. They've already recovered every dollar Daniel stole, plus implemented new safeguards to prevent future manipulation. Mrs. Mitchell, my assistant calls over the intercom. The executive board is ready for your quarterly presentation. I gather. My materials, including the comprehensive protection plan I've implemented since taking over as chief risk officer. The numbers tell a story of resurrection. Assets secured, investments stabilized, reputation protected. Elena, Margaret greets me warmly as I enter the boardroom. She's adapted to our new dynamic with remarkable grace, treating me more as a daughter than ever now that I've saved her family's reputation from her own son. The banking community is calling you the fraud whisperer, Thomas adds with a proud smile. He's fully recovered from his bypass surgery, thanks partly to the stress reduction of knowing his institution's integrity is in capable hands. Speaking of community reactions, Sam interjects, checking her messages. Daniel's old social circle has been quite active. The Harbor Club just voted to remove his name from the membership rolls permanently. I take my place at the head of the boardroom table, the same position where Daniel once practiced his fraudulent presentations to potential clients. The symmetry isn't lost on me. Before we begin, I address the assembled executives. I want to share some updates about our enhanced security measures. My presentation outlines the new system of checks and balances I've implemented. Multiple layers of oversight, regular audits, transparent reporting, everything Daniel tried to circumvent, now strengthened beyond manipulation. The forensic team found something interesting in Daniel's old files, William mentions during a break. Love letters to Olivia written on Pacific Northwest Bank stationery. He was planning to propose at the annual Bankers Gala. How romantic, I comment dryly. Nothing says true love like embezzled diamonds. My phone buzzes with another update, Daniel's lawyer making one last desperate attempt at negotiation. He's offering to reveal the location of more hidden accounts in exchange for a reduced restitution payment. Tell him not to bother, I instruct William. We've already found everything, including the Bitcoin wallet he thought was untraceable. The afternoon brings a steady stream of developments. Daniel's remaining professional memberships canceled, his social media account suspended, his personal credit rating destroyed, his reputation in financial circles irreparable. His sister Elizabeth called, Sam informs me. She's ready to sign over her children's college fund oversight to you as well. Says she can't think of anyone better to protect their future. I accept the responsibility with a nod. The Mitchell children's futures will be secure, a stark contrast to their uncle's current situation. The media wants to know if you'll attend next month's financial industry gala, my assistant mentions. You're being honored for your work in fraud prevention and risk management. Confirm the attendance, I decide, but keep the focus on financial responsibility, not personal drama. As evening approaches, I review one final set of documents, the complete record of Daniel's downfall. Financial manipulation documented, personal account theft proven, federal charges filed, bank reputation preserved, justice served. My phone shows one last notification for the day, Daniel's final attempt to access his old bank accounts from the detention center's computer lab. Even now, he hasn't quite accepted his new reality. Should we tell him about the foundation? Sam asks, referring to the new financial literacy initiative I've established using recovered funds from his theft. It's rather ironic, using recovered funds from his fraud to educate others about financial responsibility. Let him read about it in the Financial Times, I reply, closing my laptop. I believe they deliver to federal detention centers. Margaret appears in my doorway, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Elena, we just got Daniel's letter. He's finally apologizing. Says he understands now what he lost. Too late, I observe quietly. By exactly 6 years, 5 months, and 17 days. We stand together at my office window, watching the sunset over Puget Sound. Somewhere in a federal detention facility, Daniel sits in a cell, probably wondering how his perfect life unraveled so completely. Somewhere in Portland, Olivia works, at her parents' yoga studio, her dreams of social climbing shattered like the trust she helped betray. And here I stand in the office that once represented everything Daniel thought he deserved, protecting the institution he tried to exploit. My phone buzzes with an incoming email, another financial publication requesting an interview about fraud prevention. They're calling me the new face of banking security, Margaret mentions, reading over my shoulder. The woman who modernized risk management. I smile, thinking of all the nights Daniel spent explaining basic finance to his simple wife, never realizing he was lecturing a financial expert about his own impending downfall. The legal team wants to know if you'll consider writing a book, Sam adds, about protecting financial institutions from internal threats. Perhaps, I muse, gathering my things for the day. I certainly have enough material. As I prepare to leave, my security feed shows Daniel's last possessions being removed from the penthouse. His beloved whiskey collection, his designer wardrobe, his carefully curated art pieces, all being liquidated to repay his debt to the victims of his fraud. One last thing, William calls out. The federal prosecutors want to know if you'll testify at his sentencing hearing next month. I consider this, remembering every lie, every betrayal, every moment he underestimated me. No need, I decide. The evidence speaks for itself. Stepping into my private elevator, I think about the day Daniel first brought me home to meet his family. How he showcased me like a prize, never bothering to look deeper than the surface. How he dismissed my interest in the banking industry as cute. My phone holds his final message, sent through his lawyer this morning. I finally understand what you were protecting, what I threw away. I'm sorry. Too late, Daniel. You never realized that the real power wasn't in the accounts themselves, but in the trust you betrayed. And now you have the rest of your sentence to contemplate the true cost of underestimating the woman who held your future in her hands all along. 6 months after Daniel's sentencing, I stand at the podium of the Western Banking Forum, addressing A room full of the region's most prominent financial executives and risk managers. The irony isn't lost on me, speaking about financial security to the same people who once dismissed me as nothing more than a trophy wife. The greatest threat to institutional integrity, I tell them, my voice carrying clearly through the grand ballroom of the Four Seasons, isn't external. It's the complacency that comes from believing your position is untouchable. The audience hangs on every word. After all, the Pacific Northwest Bank case has become required reading at top business schools nationwide. Mrs. Mitchell, one of the senior partners from Goldman Sachs, approaches after my speech. Your insights on risk management are revolutionary. Would you consider joining our advisory board? I smile, remembering how Daniel used to explain basic investment concepts to me at parties like this. I'll have my office send over my credentials. Sam appears at my elbow with updates from the morning's developments. 3 more banks requesting our oversight protocols, 2 interview requests. From financial publications, 1 desperate letter from Daniel still trying to explain himself from federal detention. The Financial Literacy Foundation launch is trending, she adds, showing me her tablet. They're calling it a paradigm shift in fraud prevention education. My phone buzzes with a message from Margaret Mitchell. The family's annual holiday gathering is approaching, and for the first time in generations, it will celebrate not just success, but integrity. The prosecutors sent over Daniel's latest statement. William joins us, tablet in hand. He's finally admitted to everything, even the schemes we hadn't uncovered yet. I take the tablet, scanning his confession. The depth of his betrayal still manages to surprise me. Hidden accounts in Belize, shell companies in Panama, plans to drain his sister's home equity line of credit. His cellmate says he spends his days reading financial journals, Sam mentions. Apparently, he's finally learning about proper banking ethics. Better late than never, I murmur. A notification pops up on my phone. Olivia has resurfaced, this time teaching mindful money management at her parents' yoga studio in Portland. Her Instagram bio now reads, "Surviving Toxic Wealth, My Journey to Authenticity." At least someone learned something. The bank's board meeting is in an hour. My assistant reminds me. They're voting on the new governance structure you proposed. I gather my materials, including the comprehensive reform package I've spent months developing. Pacific Northwest Bank won't just survive this crisis. It will emerge stronger, setting new standards for the industry. Elena! Thomas Warren's voice booms across the ballroom. He's fully recovered now, his natural vigor restored once the stress of Daniel's betrayal was removed. The Harvard Business School case study about your handling of the crisis just went live. I join him at a quiet corner table, accepting a glass of champagne. How's Margaret holding up? Better, he sighs. The therapist says accepting Daniel's true nature was the first step. Your protection of the family's reputation gave her the space to focus on healing. My phone shows another alert. Daniel's former office has been completely transformed into the Mitchell Center for Financial Education. The plaque outside reads, "Protecting Integrity Through Knowledge." The lawyers finished processing the last of his restitution payments. William approaches with more updates. Every dollar he stole has been recovered and reinvested in protection. Systems. Through the ballroom's windows, I can see the Seattle skyline, the same view Daniel used to boast about controlling from his corner office. Now that same office serves as command central for protecting institutions from people like him. The financial media is calling it the Mitchell Standard. Sam shows me another article. Your protocols for fraud prevention are being adopted by banks across the country. I think about the day Daniel first showed me his office at the bank, how he patronizingly explained the concept of financial risk, while I mentally cataloged every weakness in their security system. Your next appointment is here, my assistant announces. JP Morgan's representatives want to discuss implementing your oversight systems. As I prepare for the meeting, my security feed shows one last image of Daniel's former life being dismantled, his prized art collection being auctioned to repay his debt to his victims, the same collection he used to lecture me about never, realizing I'd majored in both English literature and finance. Judge Patel called, William adds. She's recommending your case as required reading for financial court judges. Says it's the most comprehensive fraud protection strategy she's ever seen. My phone buzzes with a notification from the Federal Detention Center. Daniel has requested permission to enroll in online financial management courses. Trying to understand where I went wrong, his note reads. Should we tell him about the Foundation's new educational program? Sam asks. The one teaching bank employees how to detect and prevent internal fraud? Let him figure it out, I reply, straightening my St. John jacket. He always said he learned best through experience. Margaret joins us, elegant as ever in her role as family matriarch. The Holiday Gathering Committee has a suggestion. They want to honor you as guardian of legacy. I shake my head, remembering all the events where Daniel paraded me around like an accessory. No honors. The secured institution speaks for itself. Through my phone, I watch various scenes unfold across the city. Federal investigators using my case to train new financial crimes specialists. Business schools teaching the Mitchell case as a master class in fraud prevention. Banking columnists speculating about Daniel's life behind bars. Financial advisors studying my oversight protocols. One last thing, Sam calls out as I head to my next meeting. Daniel's old banking club is reopening their membership waitlist. Care to submit his replacement's name? I smile, thinking of all the times he used that club to impress his mistresses, flaunting the wealth he was secretly stealing. I have a better idea. Let's turn it into another foundation office. Something about financial literacy for future generations. The afternoon sun streams through the Four Seasons windows, catching the sapphire on my left hand. Not my engagement ring from Daniel, but my grandmother's ring, a symbol of true family legacy. On my desk, the latest risk assessment reports show growth that would have been impossible under Daniel's manipulation. Mrs. Mitchell, my assistant interrupts gently. The Wall Street Journal is here for your interview about transforming banking security. I gather my thoughts, remembering every step of this journey. The quiet wife who watched and waited. The financial expert who documented every lie. The executive who protected an institution's integrity. The woman who refused to be underestimated. My phone shows one final notification for the day. Daniel's lawyer making a last desperate pitch for leniency. He's a changed man, the message pleads. He understands now what he lost. Too late, I think, heading to the interview. Some lessons come at a price no bank account can cover. As I take my seat across from the journalist, I catch my reflection in the window. No longer the trophy wife. Daniel thought he married, but the guardian of integrity he never knew he needed. The reporter's first question makes me smile. Mrs. Mitchell, how does it feel to have revolutionized financial protection? It feels, I reply, thinking of Daniel. In his cell, finally learning the true meaning of value, exactly like justice. 1 year to the day after Daniel's downfall, I stand in my office at Pacific Northwest Tower, watching the sun rise over Elliott Bay. The view is different from up here, both literally and figuratively. The past year has transformed not just the bank, but the entire landscape of financial risk management. My phone lights up with the morning's first notification. Forbes magazine has just released their annual Power Players issue. The cover story, The Woman Who Changed Banking Security Forever, Elena Mitchell's Revolution. The Times piece just went live too, Sam announces, entering with her signature stack of updates. They're calling you the silent guardian of institutional integrity. I scan the headline, amused by the irony. A year ago, these same publications barely noticed me, just another attractive wife in Seattle's financial circus. Now they're studying my methods in business schools. Daniel's latest letter arrived, William adds quietly, placing a thin envelope on my desk. Unlike his early, desperate pleas, this one is different. A simple handwritten confession of every mistake, every betrayal, every moment of hubris that led to his downfall. He's finally completed the financial ethics program in prison, Sam mentions, checking her tablet. Graduated top of his class, ironically enough. Says he finally understands what he was supposed to be protecting. Through my office windows, I can see the bustling financial district. The same streets where Daniel once strutted like a prince, never realizing he was walking toward his own destruction. Now those same streets are home to a new era of financial governance, shaped by the lessons of his fall. The Mitchell Foundation's annual report is ready for review, my assistant announces. The new financial literacy programs have reached over 15,000 banking employees this year. I take the report, pleased to see the impact of our work. What Daniel tried to exploit has become a beacon of financial wisdom, helping other institutions protect their integrity from similar threats. Margaret's on her way up, William informs me. The family council approved your proposal for the new educational endowment. When my mother-in-law enters, she carries herself with renewed strength. The past year has changed her, too, from a woman blindsided by her son's betrayal to a fierce advocate for financial accountability. Elena, she begins, emotion thick in her voice. The family wants you to know that what you've built from this tragedy, it's beyond anything we could have imagined. My phone buzzes with updates that underscore her words. 3 more financial institutions adopting the Mitchell protocols, 2 international banking conferences requesting keynote speeches, 1 prestigious Security Innovation Award nomination. Olivia sent another interview request, Sam mentions. She's writing a book about financial manipulation, wants your perspective. I decline with a simple email. Some stories don't need more telling, they need understanding. The performance reports are in, William adds, pulling up the latest figures. Growth is up 35% since you took control. Every dollar Daniel stole has been recovered and multiplied. Through my security feeds, I can see multiple scenes playing out. Business school students studying the Mitchell case, financial advisors implementing my protection protocols, banking executives reviewing their security measures, future generations learning from Daniel's mistakes. His parole hearing is next month, Sam reminds me gently. They want to know if you'll submit a statement. I consider this, remembering every step of our journey. The quiet wife who watched and learned, the expert who documented every lie, the guardian who protected an institution, the woman who refused to be underestimated. Send them this, I decide, pulling up the bank's latest performance report. Let the numbers speak for themselves. Margaret touches my arm gently. He asks about you, in his letters. Says he finally understands what he had. Not just the money, but the trust. Some lessons, I reply, watching a new class of risk management associates enter the Mitchell Center for Financial Education below. Come too late to change the past, but early enough to protect the future. My phone shows one final update. Daniel's old office has been completely transformed into a state-of-the-art financial security center. The plaque outside reads, "Protecting Tomorrow's Integrity Today." The next generation of Mitchell cousins starts their financial education program tomorrow, Sam reminds me. Would you like to speak to them? I think about these children, Daniel's nieces and nephews, the future of the family he betrayed. Thanks to our new protocols, they'll grow up understanding not just the privilege of wealth, but the responsibility of integrity. Tell them the truth, I decide, about trust, betrayal, and the price of underestimating those we dismiss. As the sun sets on another day in Seattle's financial district, I stand at my office window, holding Daniel's final letter. In it, he finally asks the question that took him a fortune and his freedom to understand. How did I not see who you really were? The answer, of course, was simple. He never looked past his own reflection. My phone shows one last notification: Pacific. Northwest Bank has just been named a gold standard in financial governance. The institution Daniel tried to exploit has emerged stronger, wiser, and more secure than ever. "Mrs. Mitchell," my assistant calls out, "they're ready for you in the boardroom. The next generation is waiting." I gather my materials, preparing to teach tomorrow's leaders the lessons learned from yesterday's mistakes. Through the window, Seattle glitters like the fortune I protected, beautiful, powerful, and worth every moment of patient waiting. As I head to the boardroom, I pass the wall of banking pioneers. Daniel's portrait has been replaced by something more meaningful, a simple plaque that reads, "True wealth lies not in what we possess, but in what we protect." Some must learn this lesson through loss. Others are chosen to teach it through strength. In the end, Daniel got exactly what he deserved: time to contemplate the true cost of underestimating a woman he thought he could control. And I got what I earned: a legacy protected, a family restored, and a future secured by the quiet power of patient justice. The story of Pacific Northwest Bank will be told for generations, not as a tragedy of betrayal, but as a testament to the strength that lies in being underestimated. And somewhere in a federal prison cell, Daniel finally understands the most expensive lesson of his life. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should have feared the most. The morning after signing those initial papers, find myself unexpectedly calm. The storm I've been meticulously planning is about to break, yet I move through our penthouse with the serenity of someone who has already won. I select my armor carefully, a charcoal Donna Karan suit that Daniel once described as too severe for my delicate features. The irony isn't lost on me as I fasten the platinum watch his mother gave me last Christmas. For the woman who gave my son stability. If they only knew. Daniel stumbles from the master bathroom, hair still wet from his shower, the scent of his expensive cologne hanging in the air. He checks his reflection in the mirror, adjusting his tie, practicing what I recognize as his presentation smile. "Big day," he says, catching my eye in the reflection. "Are you sure you want to come? These executive meetings can be pretty boring for non-finance people." I smile, applying a final touch of lipstick. I wouldn't miss it for the world. He seems pleased by this, his ego expanding to fill the room. "Well, you'll get to see your husband shine. The marketing director position is practically mine after this presentation." I hand him his briefcase, the one I'd given him for our anniversary 2 years ago. "I've never doubted your ability to get exactly what you deserve, Daniel." He kisses my cheek, misinterpreting my words entirely. "That's why we work so well together. You've always believed in me." As he heads out the door, promising to meet me at Vertex Technologies, I allow myself a moment of reflection. 4 years of marriage spent being the supportive, slightly naive wife he wanted. 6 months of discovering his betrayals. 3 months of documenting every transaction, every lie, every manipulation. 2 weeks of finalizing my response. And now, just 3 hours until everything changes. I pour myself a cup of coffee and open my laptop, checking that every piece is in place. William has confirmed the forensic accounting team is standing by. Sam has verified Judge Patel's schedule is clear. The banking security team has prepared all the necessary alerts and freezes, ready to be activated on my signal. My phone buzzes with a message from Olivia to the charity committee. "Can't wait to see everyone at the gala planning session next." Week! So many exciting ideas to share. I screenshot it for my files, knowing she'll be canceling that appearance once she realizes what's happening today. Her exciting ideas likely involve spending more of my money Daniel has been steadily funneling to her through his elaborate scheme of fake consulting fees. I finish my coffee and gather my things, making one final call to Thomas Warren, CEO of Pacific Northwest Bank, and my mentor for the past 4 years. "Elena," his voice carries the weight of experience. Everything is in position. Are you absolutely certain about this course of action? The question isn't whether I'm certain, Thomas, I reply, looking out at the Seattle skyline. The question is whether Daniel was certain he could get away with it. He's in for quite a surprise then, Thomas says with grim satisfaction. We'll be monitoring everything from the command center. Good luck. I thank him and end the call, checking my watch. Time to begin. The ride to Vertex Technologies takes exactly 17 minutes. I spend them reviewing mental notes of every expression I need to control, every reaction I need to manage. Daniel believes he's married to a woman incapable of understanding complex financial maneuvers. That misconception has been my greatest advantage. The lobby of Vertex is a monument to modern corporate design, all glass and polished concrete, with the company's distinctive green logo glowing above reception. I'm immediately recognized by the security team, who greet me warmly. Daniel has always insisted I attend company functions, showing me off like a prize. Mrs. Mitchell? Good. To see you, the receptionist smiles. Daniel mentioned you'd be coming. The executive presentation is on the 30th floor, conference room A. I thank her and head to the elevator. My heart beats steady despite what's coming. In my purse, my phone vibrates with a message from Sam. Bailiff en route with papers. Judge Patel standing by. When I reach the 30th floor, I can already see Daniel through the glass walls of the conference room. He's in his element, charming the executives with practiced ease, laughing at the right moments, projecting confidence. He spots me and waves me in, his smile widening. And here's my wife, he announces to the room as I enter. Elena, you remember? Everyone. I shake hands with Jeffrey Palmer, the CEO, and nod to the other executives. I notice Daniel's presentation materials arranged precisely at the head of the table, the culmination of weeks of work. Work I know contains manipulated data, exaggerated projections, and outright fabrications designed to secure his promotion. We're just about to begin, Jeffrey tells me, gesturing to an empty seat. Daniel's been telling us about his revolutionary marketing strategy. I take my place, smiling warmly at everyone. I can't wait to hear all about it. Daniel takes his position at the head of the table, clicking to bring up his first slide. I glance at my watch. 8:57 a.m. Just 3 minutes now. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel begins, his voice carrying that practiced confidence I've heard him rehearse in our bathroom mirror. Today I'm going to show you how Vertex Technologies can dominate the Pacific Northwest market in the next fiscal year. He clicks to his first slide, a graph showing impressive growth projections. Growth I know is based on manipulated numbers and creative accounting. As you can see, our current trajectory is solid, but with the strategy I'm proposing, my phone vibrates silently in my lap. 9:00 a.m. exactly. I send a single text message. Proceed. Daniel continues speaking, unaware that digital tripwires are being triggered across multiple banking systems. His phone buzzes in his pocket, but he ignores it, deep in his presentation. It buzzes again, and again. I see the moment. The first notification reaches Jeffrey Palmer's phone. The CEO glances down, frowns slightly, then looks back up at Daniel with new intensity in his gaze. By 9:05, several executives are checking their phones, their expressions shifting from polite attention to confusion to concern. Daniel falters slightly, noticing the change in the room. Is everything all right? He asks, pausing mid-sentence, about market penetration strategies. The conference room door opens. A court bailiff enters, followed by 2 financial investigators in suits. The room falls silent. Daniel Mitchell? The bailiff asks formally. Daniel nods, confused and irritated, at the interruption of his big moment. Yes, that's me. We're in the middle of something important here. Mr. Mitchell, I'm serving you with emergency financial injunctions regarding accounts registered in your name. The bailiff holds out official documents. By order of Judge Patel of King County Superior Court, You are restricted from accessing all financial accounts pending investigation into allegations of fraud and misappropriation. The color drains from Daniel's face as he takes the papers. His phone continues buzzing, notification after notification as his accounts are systematically frozen across multiple institutions. There must be some mistake, he says, his voice suddenly lacking its confident resonance. I meet his eyes across the conference room and open my laptop. No mistake, Daniel. With practiced calm, I connect my computer to the conference room's display system. Daniel's presentation disappears, replaced by a comprehensive spreadsheet detailing every unauthorized transfer he's made over the past 8 months. Dates, amounts, destinations, all meticulously documented. What is this? Jeffrey Palmer demands, standing up from his chair at the head of the table. This, Mr. Palmer, I say calmly, is a record of how Daniel has been systematically transferring funds from our personal accounts to finance his relationship with Olivia Parker, who some of you may know as the yoga instructor he hired as a marketing consultant 3 months ago. Daniel's face contorts with shock. Elena? What are you doing? This is crazy. I click to the next slide. Screenshots of transfers from our joint savings matched side by side with Olivia's Instagram posts showing expensive gifts, luxury hotel stays, and designer purchases, all time-stamped to match the withdrawals perfectly. I believe these expenditures will be of particular interest, I continue, highlighting several transactions. These weren't just from our joint accounts, but include company expense account funds that were supposed to be for client development. The room erupts in controlled chaos. Jeffrey Palmer is on his feet, demanding explanations. Other executives are poring over the documents being distributed by the financial investigators. Daniel stands frozen, papers clutched in his hand, his perfectly crafted world crumbling around him. Elena. He finally manages, his voice a desperate whisper. How could you know all this? I turn to him, allowing myself the smallest of smiles. Daniel, did you ever actually read my employee profile at Pacific Northwest Bank? My job title? My department? He stares blankly, and I can see him mentally searching for any memory of showing interest in my career. I'm the vice president of risk management, I say quietly. Every suspicious transaction at the bank comes across my desk, including yours. His face pales further, the implications washing over him in waves. That's not possible. You studied English literature. I double majored in finance and English at Northwestern, I correct him. I spent 3 years in fraud detection at Wells Fargo before moving to Pacific Northwest Bank. Information you might have known if you'd ever bothered to ask about. My work instead of dismissing it as boring bank stuff. Through the conference room's glass walls, I see Olivia being escorted by security into a separate meeting room. She catches sight of Daniel and me, her expression morphing from confusion to panic as she realizes what's happening. The money, Daniel says, his voice hoarse. What about our accounts? Frozen, I reply simply. Every account you have access to is currently under review. And before you think about the offshore accounts, yes, we found those too. The Cayman Islands setup wasn't nearly as clever as you thought. Jeffrey Palmer approaches, his face a mask of controlled fury. Daniel, I need you to surrender your company laptop and credentials immediately. Security will escort you from the building. Jeff, please, Daniel attempts, switching to the charming persona that has served him so well. This is just a personal misunderstanding between my wife and me. We can resolve this without... Save it, Palmer cuts him off. The evidence is right there on screen. You used company resources to fund your affair and falsified reports to cover your tracks. We'll be conducting a full investigation. Daniel turns back to me, desperation in his eyes. Elena, you can't do this. Everything we've built. Everything I built, I correct him. The accounts, the investments, the penthouse, they're all primarily in my name. Another detail you never bothered to read in our financial arrangements. The security team arrives to escort Daniel out. As they approach, his phone buzzes one final time. He glances at it reflexively, and I know exactly what notification he's seeing. His access to all building systems has been revoked, his keycard deactivated, his email suspended. "Where am I supposed to go?" he asks, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. "The penthouse is my primary residence," I finish for him. "You'll need to find alternative accommodations." As security leads him toward the door, I call after him. "Oh, and Daniel, I wouldn't try checking into a hotel. Your credit cards have all been suspended." Through the glass, I watch him being led to the elevator, his shoulders slumped, the confident stride replaced by the uncertain gait of a man whose foundations have been pulled out from under him. Jeffrey Palmer turns to me, his expression a mix of shock and professional respect. "Mrs. Mitchell, I don't know what to say. We had no idea." "Few people did," I reply, gathering my materials. That was rather the point. The financial investigators approach with preliminary findings from Daniel's work computer, evidence of manipulated marketing data, falsified client reports, and emails to Olivia discussing their future plans, all more damning than even I had anticipated. "We'll need your formal statement," one investigator tells me. "The patterns of financial concealment are consistent with your report, but there appears to be more." "I'm available whenever you need me," I reply. "All my documentation is ready." As the executive meeting dissolves into crisis management, my phone buzzes with a message from Thomas Warren. Phase 1 complete. Bank security reports all accounts frozen, all alerts active. Well done. I step out of the conference room to find Margaret Mitchell, Daniel's mother, standing in the hallway, her face pale with shock. She must have come to surprise Daniel for his big presentation. "Elena," she whispers, "what's happening? I just saw Daniel being escorted out by security." I guide her to a quiet corner, away from curious eyes. "Margaret, I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. Daniel has been misappropriating funds. A lot of funds." "For what?" she asks, her voice small. Rather than explain, I show her my phone. Olivia's Instagram feed displaying the lavish lifestyle Daniel has been financing, including a photo from just 3 days ago captioned, "When he promises this is just the beginning. New chapter. Leaving the past behind." Margaret's hand flies to her mouth. "He was planning to leave you?" "After draining our accounts," I confirm gently. "And some of your accounts too, I'm afraid. We've already reversed those transfers." "Our accounts?" she repeats, confusion giving. Way to horror. "What do you mean?" I explain as kindly as possible how Daniel had been systematically siphoning money, not just from our joint savings, but from family accounts he had access to, including the down payment fund for his sister's first home. Margaret sinks into a chair, her worldview visibly shattering. "I don't understand. We raised him better than this." "This isn't a reflection on your parenting," I assure her. "Daniel made his choices, and now he's facing the consequences." Through the glass walls, I can see Olivia being interviewed by the financial investigators, tears streaming down her face as she realizes the severity of her situation. Whatever story Daniel told her is unraveling as rapidly as his career. My phone buzzes with updates from Sam. The forensic accounting team has already uncovered 3 more hidden accounts. The bank has initiated full fraud protocols. And Daniel's preliminary statement to security claims complete ignorance of any wrongdoing, a defense contradicted by the mountain of evidence already collected. "What happens now?" Margaret asks, looking lost. "The legal process will take its course," I explain. "The bank has all the documentation needed to recover the funds. But Margaret," I take her hand gently, "you should prepare the family. This will become public soon." She nods slowly, decades of social standing and family reputation weighing on her shoulders. All these years, we thought he was following in his father's footsteps at the bank. We were so proud. He did follow a path at the bank, I say carefully, just not the one you imagined. Security approaches to inform me that Olivia is asking to speak with me privately. I excuse myself from Margaret, promising to check on her later, and follow the security officer to a small conference room where Olivia waits, her designer outfit contrasting sharply with her tear-streaked face. "Elena," she begins as soon as I enter. "You have to believe me. I had no idea the money was—" I raise a hand to stop her. "Save it, Olivia. I have copies of text messages where Daniel explicitly told you the money was coming from our accounts, and you replied, and I quote, 'She'll never notice. She's too busy with her boring bank job to check.'" Her mouth opens and closes silently, the practiced innocence evaporating. "But since you're suddenly concerned about the source of funds," I continue, "you should know that the authorities are particularly interested in your consulting company. The one that has no clients except Daniel, no services except cashing, his checks, and no business experience except your yoga certification." "It was his idea," she says quickly. "All of it. The company, the transfers, the offshore accounts." "I know," I reply calmly. "That's why he's in significantly more trouble than you are. But make no mistake, accepting those funds makes you complicit." Her breathing quickens with panic. "What's going to happen to me?" "That depends largely on your cooperation," I explain. "The forensic team needs to trace every dollar. Your complete honesty now might help your situation later." As I leave Olivia, to the investigators, my phone shows a notification from our home security system. Daniel has arrived at the penthouse. Through the camera feed, I watch him frantically packing clothes and personal items, his movements jerky and uncoordinated, so different from his usual measured confidence. I send a text to Sam. "He's at the penthouse, Security Protocol 3. Within moments, I receive confirmation that the building's management has been notified. Daniel will be allowed to collect essential personal items only, under supervision, then escorted from the premises. His access codes will be deactivated when he leaves. Jeffrey Palmer approaches me in the hallway, his expression grave. "Mrs. Mitchell, I want to personally apologize. We had no idea Daniel was using company resources for this." "You couldn't have known," I assure him. "He was quite careful about keeping his professional image spotless." "Not careful enough," Palmer observes. "Your documentation is extraordinarily thorough. May I ask how long you've known?" "About the affair? 6 months," I reply. "About the financial fraud? 3 months. I needed time to document everything properly." He shakes his head in amazement. "Most people would have confronted him immediately." "Most people don't work in risk management," I say with a small smile. "Sometimes the longer game yields better results." Palmer studies me with newfound respect. "If you're ever looking for a position outside of banking, Vertex would be fortunate to have someone with your analytical skills and strategic thinking." "Thank you," I reply. "But I'm quite satisfied with my role at Pacific Northwest Bank, particularly now." My phone buzzes with another update. The bank's security team has identified 2 more shell companies Daniel was using to hide funds. They've already frozen the associated accounts and are tracing every transaction. Through the conference room windows, I see the financial investigators boxing up evidence from Daniel's office, his laptop, files, and the flash drive he kept hidden in a fake bottom drawer. The drive I'd discovered months ago and had quietly imaged before returning it exactly as I'd found it. William arrives from the bank, carrying additional documentation for the investigators. He spots me and approaches, lowering his voice. "Elena, the team found evidence that Daniel was planning to leave the country next week. There are emails about property viewings in Vancouver and inquiries about Canadian residency requirements." I nod, unsurprised. "That aligns with the Whistler Reservation. He was scouting locations." "There's more," William continues. "He was researching countries with limited extradition agreements with the U.S. This wasn't just about leaving you. He was preparing to disappear with the money. I feel a momentary chill, realizing how close he'd come to executing his plan. If I'd waited even another week to act. The passport alert is already active, William assures me, reading my expression. Border control has been notified. He's not going anywhere. I thank him and step aside to call Margaret, who has returned to her home to begin preparing the family for the news. She answers immediately, her voice steadier now. Elena, I've spoken with Elizabeth. She's in shock about the down payment fund, but relieved you've recovered it. How is she handling the rest of it? I ask. As well as can be expected, Margaret sighs. She always looked up to Daniel. This is difficult for her to process. And Mr. Mitchell? I inquire about Daniel's father, concerned about how this stress might affect his health after his recent surgery. Richard is angry, she says carefully. More angry than I've seen him in 40 years of marriage. He wants to speak with you when you have time. I promise to visit them soon, after the initial legal proceedings are handled. As I end the call, I see Olivia being escorted from the building, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Our eyes meet briefly through the glass. The hostility in her gaze has been replaced by something else. Fear, certainly, but also a grudging respect. My phone alerts me to another development. The bank's fraud team has discovered that Daniel attempted to access his cryptocurrency accounts from the Vertex building just minutes ago. The attempt was blocked, the transaction recorded, another piece of evidence of his desperate scramble to access hidden funds. I return to the main conference room where Jeffrey Palmer is addressing his executive team about the situation. He pauses when I enter, gesturing for me to join them. Mrs. Mitchell has agreed to help us understand the full scope of Daniel's activities within the company, he explains to the group. Her expertise in financial fraud detection is going to be invaluable as we conduct our internal investigation. I spend the next hour walking them through the warning signs I'd identified in Daniel's work patterns, the inconsistent reporting, the vague client references, the expenses that never quite aligned with business outcomes. Things that might seem minor in isolation, but formed a pattern when viewed collectively. The most effective fraud prevention isn't about catching people in the act, I explain. It's about creating systems where irregularities become visible before significant damage occurs. The executives listen with rapt attention, many taking notes. What began as a personal betrayal has transformed into a professional masterclass in fraud detection. My phone buzzes with a message from the penthouse security team. Daniel has been escorted from the building after collecting essential items. The locks have been changed, his biometric access revoked. Another piece of his life stripped away. As the meeting concludes, Jeffrey Palmer pulls me aside. Elena, I know this is a difficult day, but I have to say, your composure and professionalism are remarkable. Many people would be falling apart under these circumstances. I consider his observation. When you discover someone is systematically betraying your trust, you have two options. React emotionally or respond strategically. I chose the latter. Well, that strategy has saved not just your own finances, but potentially protected our company from significant damage, he acknowledges. Daniel's proposal would have redirected millions in marketing funds into channels he controlled, I confirm, the same pattern he established with our personal accounts. As I gather my things to leave, Sam arrives with news from Judge Patel. The emergency hearing has been scheduled for tomorrow morning. All financial evidence has been secured, all accounts remain frozen, and Daniel's lawyer has already reached out seeking a deal. A deal? I echo, surprised by the audacity. Already? He's offering to provide information about additional accounts in exchange for unfreezing his personal credit cards, Sam explains. Decline, I say firmly. We've already identified the accounts. He's just trying to regain some control. Outside Vertex Tower, I find Margaret waiting by my car, her usual, elegant composure strained but intact. I couldn't just go home, she explains. Not yet. I needed to understand, to hear from you. Let's get coffee, I suggest gently, guiding her to a quiet cafe across the street. Once settled with steaming cups before us, Margaret looks at me with new eyes. Not just her son's wife now, but something else entirely. You're not who I thought you were, she says finally. Few of us are, I reply. Though in Daniel's case, I wish I had been wrong. Thomas Warren called Richard, she reveals. He told us how you've been protecting the bank from financial threats. For years. How you spotted irregularities in Daniel's accounts months ago but needed time to build the case properly. I nod, not surprised that Thomas reached out to the family. He and Richard had been friends for decades. Daniel always talked about how you didn't understand finance, Margaret continues, a note of wonder in her voice. How he handled all the complex stuff because your mind was more creative. I can't help a small smile. That perception gave me the space to work without interference. He never questioned why I had access to all our accounts because he assumed I wasn't paying attention to them. Margaret shakes her head slowly. All these years, we thought he was the financial expert in your marriage. He wanted everyone to think that, I observe, including himself. What happens now? She asks, the question heavy with implications beyond just legal proceedings. I consider how to answer, looking out at the Seattle skyline, the same view Daniel would brag about controlling from his office. Now, I say carefully, we all adjust to a new reality, one where the truth is visible rather than hidden. Margaret reaches across the table to take my hand, her wedding ring catching the light. 50 years of marriage to a man who built a legitimate banking career, whose legacy Daniel has now tarnished. Will you be all right? She asks, maternal, concern winning out over her own distress. I squeeze her hand gently. I've been preparing for this moment for months, Margaret. Everything that's happening now is proceeding according to plan. As we finish our coffee, my phone shows a notification. Daniel attempting to check into successively cheaper hotels as his reality deteriorates. The Four Seasons, declined. The Fairmont, declined. The Marriott, declined. Now a budget airport. Motel, paid for with cash borrowed from a former colleague who hasn't yet heard the news. He's trying to find somewhere to stay, I note, showing Margaret the security alerts. She looks torn between maternal instinct and righteous anger. Should we offer him a place? That's entirely your decision, I tell her honestly. But you should know that the legal proceedings are just beginning. The prosecutors will want to establish that he acted alone, without family knowledge or support. She nods slowly, understanding the implications. Opening their home to Daniel now could potentially entangle them in his legal troubles. Richard would never allow it anyway, she sighs. Not after what Daniel did with Elizabeth's house fund. Some lines shouldn't be crossed. As we part ways outside the cafe, Margaret embraces me with unexpected warmth. Elena, I want you to know, whatever happens with Daniel, you're still family to us. The gesture touches me more than I anticipated. Thank you, Margaret. That means a great deal. Back in my car, I check in with the bank's security team. The full audit of all accounts Daniel touched is proceeding, with every transaction being scrutinized. His attempt to access the cryptocurrency wallet has been added to the evidence file, along with his desperate calls to various financial institutions trying to unfreeze his accounts. Sam sends an update on Olivia's testimony. She's provided detailed information about Daniel's promises, plans, and the financial arrangements he described to her. Most damning are the text messages where he explicitly stated his intention to clean out the accounts before Elena notices anything. I drive past the Four Seasons and spot Daniel in the lobby, arguing with the front desk staff as his credit card is declined yet again. He doesn't see me, too absorbed in his collapsing world to notice the black sedan slowing momentarily before continuing down the street. When I arrive at Pacific Northwest Bank, Thomas Warren is waiting in the executive conference room with the full security team. Charts, timelines, and transaction records cover the walls, the complete mapping of Daniel's financial deception. "Elena," Thomas greets me solemnly. "Quite a morning." "Just the beginning," I reply, setting down my bag. "What's our exposure?" "Minimal," he assures me. "We caught it before any institutional funds were compromised. This remains primarily a personal financial crime, though his attempts to establish accounts using bank credentials will add corporate charges." I review the latest findings with the team, answering questions about patterns I'd identified in Daniel's behavior that might help strengthen security protocols for all clients. What began as my personal investigation has evolved into a case study in fraud detection that will protect countless others. My phone rings. Daniel calling from a number I don't recognize, likely a borrowed phone since his has been cut off from our family plan. I let it go to voicemail, then listen to his message. "Elena, please, this is insane. We need to talk. There's been a huge misunderstanding. I can explain everything if you just give me a chance. Call me back, please." I forward the voicemail to the legal team, another piece of evidence showing his attempt to manage the situation rather than take responsibility. Thomas watches me with concern. "Are you holding up all right? This can't be easy, despite all your preparation." I consider his question carefully, searching for the right words to explain what I'm feeling. "I grieved the end of my marriage months ago," I tell him finally. "Today isn't about emotion for me. It's about resolution." He nods, understanding. Thomas had mentored me through my entire career at Pacific Northwest Bank, recognizing potential that others overlooked, including my own husband. "The board wants to issue a formal statement," he informs me. "They'd like your input, given your position and personal connection to the situation." We spend the next hour crafting careful language that acknowledges the situation without sensationalizing it. The statement emphasizes the bank's security protocols that identified the irregularities, the swift action taken to protect assets, and the cooperation with authorities, positioning this as proof of our systems working rather than failing. As evening falls over Seattle, I finally return to the penthouse, now emptied of Daniel's presence. The closet where his designer suits once hung is half empty, the bathroom counter missing his expensive grooming products, his office cleared of personal items. The security logs show he tried to return twice more after his supervised visit, each attempt denied by the new access protocols, his desperation growing as his options diminish. I pour myself a glass of the Japanese whiskey he collected, but never actually appreciated, and stand by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Somewhere out there, Daniel is confronting a reality where his charm no longer opens doors. His name no longer commands respect, and his wife is not who he thought she was. My phone shows one last notification for the day. Daniel checking into a youth hostel in the University District, the only accommodation that would accept cash without requiring a credit card. How quickly the mighty fall when their foundation is built on deception. I raise my glass to the Seattle skyline, a silent toast to the truth finally exposed and justice set in motion. Tomorrow will bring more revelations, more consequences, more dismantling of the elaborate fiction Daniel constructed around himself. But tonight, I sleep soundly in the knowledge that sometimes the most devastating power lies not in confrontation, but in quiet observation, in letting someone believe they're the smartest person in the room, while you systematically document every mistake they make. Daniel always underestimated me. That was his first and most expensive error. Tuesday morning dawns with a crystalline clarity that seems almost deliberate, as if the Seattle weather is conspiring to illuminate every detail of Daniel's downfall. I wake before my alarm, the weight of anticipation having kept my sleep light. Today is the emergency hearing before Judge Patel, where the full scope of Daniel's financial manipulations will be officially entered into court record. I dress with careful consideration, a navy acris pantsuit that conveys seriousness without ostentation, pearl earrings that had belonged to my grandmother, minimal makeup. Today isn't about appearances. It's about facts, evidence, and consequences. My phone already shows a stream of updates. The financial press has picked up the story, though the details remain vague. Seattle executive under investigation for financial impropriety. By this afternoon, those headlines will be far more specific. Sam calls as I'm finishing my coffee. Daniel's lawyer has been busy. They've submitted an emergency petition to release funds for basic living expenses. I'm not surprised by this move. What's their justification? They're claiming the freeze is overly broad and causing undue hardship. Apparently, the youth hostel doesn't meet his medical needs. Interesting, I respond. What medical needs weren't disclosed during our marriage? Exactly, Sam says. Judge Patel has already denied the request pending today's hearing. She wants to see the complete financial picture first. I check the security feed from the penthouse lobby. Daniel made another attempt to enter the building at 6:15 a.m., arguing with the doorman about his rights to access his home. The doorman, following the updated security protocols, politely but firmly denied him entry, offering to have any additional personal items collected and delivered to him instead. The rejection of basic courtesies he once took for granted seems to be hitting Daniel harder than the larger legal issues looming over him. His sense of entitlement runs deep. At 8:30 a.m., I arrive at the courthouse to find William waiting with a fresh stack of financial reports. We've completed the preliminary trace on all accounts, he informs me. The pattern is even more extensive than we initially thought. He shows me the flow chart of money movements, a complex web of transfers designed to obscure the ultimate destination of funds. What strikes me most is the progressive nature of the theft. Daniel started with small amounts, testing whether I would notice. When those transfers went unchallenged, he grew bolder, taking larger sums and creating more elaborate covers. Classic escalation pattern, William observes. He gained confidence over time. While simultaneously losing perspective on the risk, I add, the larger transfers were actually less sophisticated in their concealment. Inside the courtroom, I'm surprised to see Margaret and Richard Mitchell already seated in the gallery. Margaret offers a small wave, her expression a mixture of sorrow and resolve. Richard sits rigidly beside her, his banker's posture intact despite the strain evident in his face. Daniel arrives with his attorney, a silver-haired man named James, Harrington known for representing wealthy clients in financial disputes. Daniel looks markedly different from the confident executive of 2 days ago. His suit is rumpled, his hair lacks its usual perfect styling, and the shadows under his eyes speak of a sleepless night in accommodations far below his accustomed standards. He attempts to catch my eye as he enters, but I focus my attention on the documents before me, denying him even the satisfaction of acknowledgement. From my peripheral vision, I see his parents doing the same, their gazes fixed forward, refusing to offer the comfort of recognition. Judge Patel enters, and the formal proceedings begin. The court-appointed financial examiner presents the preliminary findings, displaying key exhibits on screens visible to everyone in the courtroom. The clinical dissection of Daniel's scheme is devastating in its precision. Each transaction traced, each deception mapped, each lie exposed. As you can see, Your Honor, the examiner explains, highlighting a particular series of transfers, Mr. Mitchell created a sophisticated layering technique to obscure the movement of funds from joint accounts to accounts controlled solely by him and subsequently to the consulting firm nominally operated by Ms. Parker. Daniel shifts uncomfortably in his seat as the examiner continues. What's particularly notable is the escalation pattern. The initial transfers in March were relatively modest, $5,000 to $10,000, but by August, we see transfers exceeding $50,000, culminating in the attempted withdrawal of $87,000 last week. Judge Patel, a sharp-eyed woman with 30 years of financial cases behind her, asks pointed questions about specific transactions. Each answer further erodes any possibility of Daniel claiming ignorance or mistake. "And these offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands?" she inquires. "When were they established?" "The first was created in April, Your Honor, just days after Mrs. Mitchell received her promotion to vice president at Pacific Northwest Bank. 2 additional accounts were established in June and August, respectively." I feel rather than see Daniel's gaze snap to me at the mention of my promotion, a professional advancement he had dismissed as some title change, without bothering to understand its significance or authority. When it's my turn to provide testimony, I approach the witness stand with calm professionalism. Daniel's attorney watches me carefully, no doubt looking for signs of emotional vendetta that might undermine the case against his client. He finds none. I present my evidence methodically, explaining how I first noticed irregularities in our accounts, how I began documenting patterns, and how I correlated financial movements with Daniel's schedule and Olivia's social media activity. "Mrs. Mitchell," Judge Patel asks, "given your position at Pacific Northwest Bank, why did you wait to report these discrepancies?" "I needed to establish whether these were isolated incidents or part of a pattern," I explain. "Banking regulations require thorough documentation before formal action. Moving prematurely would have potentially allowed accounts to be emptied before they could be secured." Daniel's attorney rises for cross-examination, his strategy immediately apparent. "Mrs. Mitchell, isn't it true that you and your husband were experiencing marital difficulties prior to these allegations?" "Objection," Sam interjects from beside me. "Relevance." "I'm establishing potential motivation for these accusations, Your Honor," Harrington argues smoothly. "I'll allow it." Judge Patel decides, "But keep it focused, counselor." I meet Harrington's gaze steadily. "Mr. Mitchell and I maintained what appeared to be a normal marital relationship until I discovered financial irregularities. Any difficulties stemmed from his undisclosed activities, not the reverse." Harrington shifts tactics. "You gained access to financial records through your position at the bank. Isn't that a conflict of interest?" "No," I reply calmly. "I followed standard protocols for accounts flagged by our security system. All actions were documented and witnessed by the risk management team. I recused myself from direct decision-making precisely because of my personal connection." For nearly an hour, Harrington attempts to characterize the investigation as a vengeful wife's overreaction, but each question only provides me an opportunity to introduce more damning evidence. "So, you're claiming these transfers to Ms. Parker's consulting firm were unauthorized?" he challenges. "I'm not claiming anything," I correct him. "The evidence shows that Mr. Mitchell created a shell company registered in Ms. Parker's name 3 days after meeting her, began transferring funds to that company without proper documentation or services rendered, and concealed these transfers through multiple accounts designed to obscure their destination. These are facts, not claims." By the time Olivia takes the stand, the courtroom has filled with financial reporters drawn by rumors of a significant fraud case. She looks diminished somehow, her designer outfit from yesterday replaced with a considerably more modest ensemble, her confident demeanor replaced with visible anxiety. Her testimony proves devastating to Daniel's defense. Whether motivated by self-preservation or genuine remorse, she provides detailed accounts of how Daniel described the money as investments from his personal funds, before later admitting they came from our joint accounts. "He told me his wife was financially naive," Olivia testifies, avoiding my gaze. "He said she had no interest in their finances and wouldn't notice the transfers." During a brief recess, I observed Daniel in hushed, tense conversation with his attorney. The gravity of his situation is clearly setting in. The evidence isn't just compelling, it's overwhelming. His body language shifts from defensive animation to defeated slumping as Harrington apparently delivers unwelcome advice. When court resumes, Harrington addresses Judge Patel. "Your Honor, in light of the evidence presented, my client wishes to amend his response." He acknowledges the transfers occurred as documented but maintains they were intended as investments that would ultimately benefit both marital partners. This desperate pivot draws a subtle headshake from Judge Patel. Mr. Harrington, your client's sudden recharacterization of these transactions doesn't align with the documented evidence, particularly the creation of multiple shell companies and offshore accounts. Does your client wish to provide testimony under oath regarding this new explanation? Daniel confers with his attorney again, then declines to testify, a telling decision that speaks volumes to everyone in the courtroom. Judge Patel doesn't waste time. Based on the overwhelming evidence presented, I'm extending the emergency financial freeze on all accounts connected to Daniel Mitchell. Furthermore, I'm ordering a complete forensic accounting of all transactions dating back 3 years, the costs of which will be borne by Mr. Mitchell. The court appoints William Chen as independent examiner with full authority to trace and recover assets. She continues, her voice carrying clearly in the silent courtroom. Given the substantial evidence of deliberate financial concealment, I'm also referring this matter to the prosecutor's office for potential criminal charges. Mr. Mitchell will surrender his passport to the court pending resolution of this matter. As the hearing concludes, Daniel finally manages to intercept me in the courthouse corridor, his attorney distracted by reporters. "Elena," he says, his voice lowered to avoid being overheard. "We need to talk privately. This has gone too far." I regard him calmly. "I disagree. This hasn't gone nearly far enough yet." "Look," he continues desperately, "I made some mistakes. I admit that. But you're destroying everything we built together." "I built," I correct him quietly. "You were too busy cultivating your image to build anything lasting, Daniel." His expression hardens. "You planned this from the beginning, didn't you? All those months of saying nothing, pretending everything was normal." "I learned from an expert," I reply. "You pretended to be a devoted husband while systematically betraying every aspect of our marriage. The difference is, my deception served justice. Yours served only yourself." Before he can respond, Richard Mitchell approaches, positioning himself physically between Daniel and me. Though in his 70s, Richard's imposing banker's presence remains intact. "That's enough, Daniel," he says firmly. "You've done quite enough damage." "Dad, you don't understand," Daniel begins. "I understand perfectly," Richard cuts him off. "I reviewed the evidence myself this morning. 35 years in banking. Did. You think I wouldn't recognize what you were doing? Using your sister's house fund, for God's sake." Daniel's face pales further. "The money was just temporarily—" "Save it for the prosecutor," Richard interrupts again. "Your mother and I didn't raise you to steal, especially not from family." Security approaches, summoned discreetly by Sam. "Is everything all right here?" "Mr. Mitchell was just leaving," I reply, my voice steady. As Daniel is escorted away, Richard turns to me with an expression of profound regret. "Elena, I don't have words to express how sorry we are." "You have nothing to apologize for, Richard," I assure him. Daniel made his choices. Margaret joins us, her composed exterior showing cracks of genuine distress. "The prosecutor wants to speak with us about potential charges," she says quietly. "I'll come with you," I offer, but Richard shakes his head. "We need to handle this part as his parents," he says firmly. "But afterward, we'd like to talk about Elizabeth's house fund. She still doesn't know exactly what happened." I promise to meet them later, providing all the documentation they'll need to understand the full scope of what's been recovered and secured. As they walk away toward the prosecutor's office, I notice the slight protective way Richard guides Margaret. His hand at her elbow, a couple facing adversity together after 50 years of marriage. The contrast with my own marriage couldn't be more stark. Outside the courthouse, reporters have gathered, alerted by the unusually high security presence for what should have been a routine financial hearing. Sam helps me navigate through them, with minimal comment, but the headlines are already forming. Banking executives double life exposed, and risk manager wife uncovers husband's financial fraud. Back at Pacific Northwest Bank, Thomas Warren is waiting in my office with the board chairman, Alexander Hayes. Both men rise as I enter. "Elena," Hayes greets me solemnly. "Thomas has been keeping us informed. I wanted to personally express the board's support during this difficult time." I thank him for the sentiment, but steer the conversation toward practical matters. "The court has appointed William as independent examiner. We should provide him with whatever resources he needs to complete the forensic accounting efficiently." Hayes nods approvingly at my professional focus. "Already arranged, but that's not the only reason I'm here." He exchanges a glance with Thomas. "The board has been discussing the new chief risk officer position since James announced his retirement. In light of how you've handled this situation, both the personal aspect and the professional implications, we'd like to formally offer you the position. The promotion is significant, a step up to the executive leadership team with substantially increased authority and compensation. Under different circumstances, it would be a moment of professional triumph." "I appreciate the offer," I reply carefully, "but I want to be certain this isn't a sympathy gesture." "Quite the opposite," Hayes assures me. "Your management of this situation demonstrated exactly the qualities we need in this role: methodical analysis, strategic patience, and decisive action when the moment is right. The fact that you maintained professional protocols despite the personal implications is particularly impressive." Thomas adds his perspective. "Elena, you've earned this on merit. The board had already shortlisted you before any of this happened. Recent events just removed any lingering doubts about your capability to handle complex, high-pressure situations." I accept the position with genuine gratitude, though the professional advancement feels secondary to the more immediate concerns, still unfolding. My phone buzzes with updates from the security team. Daniel has made another attempt to access various financial accounts, triggering additional alerts in the system. He still doesn't quite believe it's over, I observe, showing Thomas the alerts. "Classic denial stage," he responds. "I've seen it before in fraud cases. He's searching for the loophole, the oversight, the one account we might have missed." "There isn't one," I say with quiet confidence. "He'll figure that out eventually," Thomas agrees. "The question is how much more damage he'll do to himself in the process." By mid-afternoon, the financial community is buzzing with the story. Former colleagues reach out with messages of support, some expressing shock, others admitting they'd always found Daniel's financial success suspiciously rapid for someone with his qualifications and experience. The most surprising call comes from James Harrington, Daniel's attorney. "Mrs. Mitchell," he begins formally, "I'm calling regarding a settlement proposal." "I wasn't aware we were negotiating," I reply, putting the call on speaker so Sam can listen. My client recognizes the strength of the evidence against him and wishes to resolve this matter as expeditiously as possible, Harrington continues. He's prepared to provide a full accounting of all financial activities and return all disputed funds in exchange for your agreement not to pursue criminal charges. Sam and I exchange glances. The desperation behind this offer is transparent. "Mr. Harrington," I respond, "your client's actions potentially violated multiple banking regulations and fraud statutes. Those aren't matters I can simply agree to overlook, even if I were inclined to do so." "Perhaps I wasn't clear," he persists. "My client is willing to accept full financial responsibility. He's merely seeking to avoid incarceration." "That decision lies with the prosecutor's office," I remind him. "Your client's cooperation will certainly be a factor in their consideration, but that cooperation should be offered unconditionally if it's genuine." After Harrington's call ends, Sam looks at me with quiet admiration. "You're not even tempted by the offer?" I consider the question carefully. What would I be gaining? The financial recovery is already proceeding through proper channels. Accepting a private arrangement would only benefit Daniel by letting him avoid the full consequences of his actions. Most people would jump at the chance to expedite resolution, Sam observes. I'm not interested in resolution, I clarify. I'm interested in justice. Those aren't always the same thing. By late afternoon, I meet with Margaret and Richard at their Lake Washington home, a gracious modern structure that has hosted countless Mitchell family gatherings over the years. Elizabeth is there too, Daniel's younger sister, looking shell-shocked by the day's revelations. I still can't process it, she says, accepting the folder of recovered financial records I've brought. He was always the responsible one, the successful one, the one who had everything figured out. He was very invested in that image, I acknowledge. So invested that he couldn't bear for anyone to see behind it, even when maintaining it required increasingly desperate measures. Richard reviews the documentation with a banker's practiced eye, nodding as he follows the recovery process William's team implemented to secure Elizabeth's down payment fund. The money's all there, he confirms, showing Elizabeth. Every dollar, plus the interest it should have earned. But why? Elizabeth asks, the question directed not really to me but to the universe at large. He has had a great career, a beautiful home, She glances at me apologetically. A marriage most people would envy. Why risk everything? It's Margaret who answers, her insight cutting to the heart of her son's character. Daniel never learned the difference between appearing successful and being successful. One is about perception, the other is about substance. We spend the next hour discussing practical matters, how to handle family events, what to tell extended family and friends, how to support each other through the public. Exposure that will inevitably intensify as the case proceeds. Throughout the conversation, I'm struck by the Mitchell family's resilience, their commitment to facing reality rather than preserving comfortable illusions. As I prepare to leave, Elizabeth pulls me aside. I always thought you were too quiet. For him, she admits. Too serious, maybe even too accommodating. I never realized that quietness was strength. Her words remind me of Daniel's fundamental misunderstanding, his belief that my measured demeanor indicated malleability rather than methodical observation. It was perhaps his most consequential misjudgment. Back at the penthouse, I find unexpected solitude restorative after the intensity of the day's events. I change into comfortable clothes and open the balcony doors, letting the evening air flow through rooms that feel increasingly like mine alone rather than shared space. My phone shows more updates. Daniel has checked into a modest extended stay hotel near the University District, using funds borrowed from a former fraternity brother. His social media accounts have gone conspicuously silent after years of carefully curated posts showcasing his supposed success. Olivia, meanwhile, has pivoted dramatically, her Instagram now featuring philosophical quotes about learning from mistakes and beginning again, alongside announcements about returning to Portland to reconnect with authentic living. The doorman calls to inform me that several flower arrangements have arrived from colleagues and friends, gestures of support as news of the situation spreads. I ask him to deliver them to the children's ward at the nearby hospital instead. The last thing I want is visual reminders of what others perceive as my personal tragedy scattered throughout my home. Sam sends the latest media roundup. The story has moved from financial news to mainstream coverage, with all the simplification and sensationalism that entails. Most reports cast it as a straightforward tale of betrayal and revenge, missing the methodical professional process that actually led to today's outcomes. I pour a glass of wine and step onto the balcony, gazing at the Seattle skyline now glittering with evening lights. Somewhere out there, Daniel is confronting a reality where his carefully constructed facade has been completely stripped away, leaving him to face the person he actually is rather than the person he pretended to be. My phone rings, Daniel calling, from yet another unfamiliar number. I let it go to voicemail, then listen to his message. Elena, please, this has gone far enough. You've made your point. I've learned my lesson. But destroying my life completely won't undo what happened. We could start over. Rebuild together. I know I made terrible mistakes, but everyone deserves a second chance. Call me back, please. The desperation in his voice is genuine, but so is the fundamental self-absorption. Even now, facing the consequences of actions entirely his own, he frames the situation as something I'm doing to him rather than something he did to himself. His notion of starting over conveniently ignores the systematic betrayal that shattered the foundation of our marriage. I forward the voicemail to Sam for the legal record, then return to the balcony, letting the cool evening air clear away the lingering echo of Daniel's voice. Tomorrow will bring more developments, more consequences, unfolding from choices made long before today. But tonight, in this moment of hard-won solitude, I find something that has been missing for months during my careful documentation of Daniel's betrayal. Peace. Not the peace of resolution that remains distant, with legal proceedings just beginning. Not even the peace of vindication, though the evidence has proven every suspicion correct. Rather, it's the deeper peace that comes from finally acting in alignment with truth after months of strategic patience. Daniel chose deception because it served his immediate desires. I chose documentation because it served eventual justice. The difference between those approaches reveals everything about why our marriage was doomed long before I discovered his financial infidelity. As night settles over Seattle, I raise my glass in a silent toast to the power of patient observation, the quiet strength that Daniel mistook for weakness until it became the instrument of his undoing. 2 months after the hearing, I stand at the podium of the Northwestern Banking Association's annual conference. The audience of 300 financial professionals listens intently as I discuss the implementation of advanced fraud detection systems. What began as my personal ordeal has transformed into a professional case study that's reshaping risk management protocols across the industry. The most effective security measures, I explain, aren't just technological, they're psychological. Understanding behavior patterns reveals vulnerabilities that no algorithm can detect on its own. From the corner of my eye, I spot Thomas Warren nodding approvingly in the front row. Since my promotion to Chief Risk Officer, we've completely restructured the bank's fraud prevention department, creating multi-layered detection systems that have already identified 2 major potential frauds before significant losses occurred. After my presentation, financial executives crowd around, eager to discuss implementation strategies for their own institutions. A woman from Chase Manhattan pulls me aside. "That was extraordinary," she says. "But I have to ask, how did you maintain your professional detachment during such a personal betrayal?" It's a question I've been asked repeatedly since the case became public. My answer has evolved with time and reflection. I separated the emotional response from the professional obligation, I tell her. One I processed privately, the other I executed methodically. What I don't say is how those sleepless nights of documentation became a form of emotional processing in themselves. Each transaction recorded a step toward accepting the reality of my marriage's disintegration. Back at my office, Sam waits, with updates on Daniel's case. The criminal proceedings have advanced steadily, with the prosecutor building on the foundation of evidence we provided. "He's agreed to a plea deal," Sam announces. 5 years with possibility of parole after 3, plus full restitution to all affected accounts. I receive this news with complex emotions. The sentence seems simultaneously severe and insufficient for the breach of trust that extended far beyond financial damage. "And Olivia?" I ask. 18 months probation and community service. Her cooperation was substantial, and the prosecutor believed she was genuinely unaware of the extent of Daniel's deception, at least initially. I nod unsurprised. Olivia had been fooled by Daniel too, albeit in different ways than I had been. In the weeks following the hearing, she'd reached out through her attorney with a handwritten apology that seemed sincere in its remorse, if belated in its conscience. My phone rings. Margaret Mitchell calling. Despite everything, we've maintained contact, our relationship evolving into something more authentic than the performative daughter-in-law role I'd previously occupied. Elena? Her voice carries the warmth that survived this family earthquake. Richard and I wanted you to know before you hear elsewhere. Daniel signed the divorce papers this morning. This final formality feels anticlimactic after everything that's transpired. The legal dissolution of our marriage is merely paperwork catching up to a reality established months ago. How is he? I ask, not from lingering attachment but from basic human concern. Margaret sighs. Coming to terms with reality finally, the facade is gone. Without it, he's having to confront who he actually is versus who he pretended to be. That's a necessary reckoning, I observe. Yes, she agrees. One that should have happened years ago, before so much damage was done. After we hang up, William arrives with the final forensic accounting report, the complete documentation of Daniel's financial manipulations spanning 3 years. The pattern is even clearer with the full timeline assembled. Small experimental diversions growing progressively larger as his confidence increased, acceleration once Olivia entered the picture, then increasingly desperate maneuvers as he planned, their departure. It's remarkable how consistent the behavior pattern was, William notes. Once you knew what to look for, it was almost predictable. Most deception follows patterns, I reply. The challenge is recognizing them before the damage becomes irreparable. That evening, I attend the bank's quarterly reception, my first major social event as Chief Risk Officer. Colleagues who once knew me primarily as Daniel's wife now approach with professional questions and collaborative proposals. My identity has shifted fundamentally in these circles, the transformation from accessory to authority now complete. Thomas joins me by the windows overlooking Elliott Bay, champagne flute in hand. The board is thrilled with the new security. Implementations, he informs me. Risk incidents are down 28% this quarter alone. And the Mitchell case study materials are being incorporated into training at 3 major banks, I add. Something good coming from something broken. Thomas studies me with the perceptive gaze that first identified my potential years ago. You know, when I recruited you from Wells Fargo, Daniel came to my office. This is news to me. Oh? He wanted to ensure there wouldn't be awkwardness with his wife working at his bank. Thomas shakes his head at the memory. I told him you'd been hired strictly on merit and would advance on the same basis. He seemed satisfied, even amused by the idea. He never mentioned that conversation, I note, though it perfectly aligns with Daniel's character. His need to position himself as the gatekeeper to opportunities that were actually earned through my own capabilities. I doubt he remembered it, Thomas replies. It wasn't important to him because he didn't view your career as consequential. That blind spot was ultimately his undoing. Later that night, I returned to the penthouse that now feels fully mine, having removed or replaced the remnants of Daniel's presence. The space reflects my aesthetic preferences rather than the carefully curated image of success he had insisted upon. Fewer status symbols, more books, more comfort, more authenticity. My security system alerts me to an email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line stops me cold. Before I go, Daniel. Against better judgment, I open it. Elena, tomorrow I begin serving my sentence. Before entering that chapter, I needed to write to you one last time. I won't ask for forgiveness. What I did was unforgivable. I won't offer explanations. My actions speak for themselves. I won't even ask for understanding. I barely understand myself why I destroyed everything good in my life. What I will say is this. You were never what I thought. I created a version of you in my mind, decorative, naive, dependent, that suited my ego. That fiction was comfortable because it made me feel superior, in control. The real you was always there, watching, analyzing, seeing through me. I just refused to see you. I don't expect a response. I just needed you to know that in losing everything, I've finally gained one thing: clarity about who you really are and who I pretended to be. Daniel. I read the message twice, searching for manipulative undertones or strategic positioning, finding instead what appears to be genuine, if belated, self-awareness. It doesn't undo the damage or justify any action, but it acknowledges a truth at the core of our failed marriage. Daniel never actually saw me. Rather than respond, I forward the email to Sam with a simple note: for the file, no reply necessary. The next morning brings news coverage of Daniel's case resolution, most focusing on the cautionary aspects rather than sensationalizing the personal elements. The financial community has largely moved on to implementing the lessons rather than dwelling on the scandal itself. I meet with Elizabeth Mitchell for coffee near her new home, a charming craftsman purchased with the down payment fund we recovered. Despite initial awkwardness, we've developed a friendship independent of her brother, founded on mutual respect rather than obligatory family connection. The house would never have happened without you, she acknowledges as we tour the renovations she's completed. Not just recovering the money, but giving me the confidence to make this decision independently. You did that yourself, I correct her. Financial security just provided the foundation. Her expression turns reflective. You know what's strange? Growing up, I always envied Daniel's confidence, his certainty. I thought he had all the answers. She gestures around her new home. Turns out I'm better at building something real than he ever was. That afternoon, I review applications for our expanded risk management team, focusing on candidates who demonstrate attention to detail and pattern recognition rather than just technical qualifications. The department has become a model within the bank, with other divisions implementing similar multi-layered verification protocols. My phone lights up with a message from Thomas. Wall Street Journal wants to profile you for their Women in Banking special issue. Interested? I consider the request carefully. While personal attention has never been my goal, the platform offers an opportunity to highlight the importance of robust security systems and the dangers of overlooking quieter voices in financial oversight. Yes, I reply, but focused on the professional aspects, not personal details. That evening, I attend a fundraiser for financial literacy education, a cause that's taken on new meaning in light of recent experiences. The program helps young adults understand money management fundamentals, creating early awareness of financial responsibility and warning signs of manipulation. As I write a substantial donation check, I reflect on how Daniel's betrayal, while personally devastating, has catalyzed positive changes extending far beyond our broken marriage. The security systems implemented in response protect countless families from similar exploitation. The educational initiatives help others recognize warning signs I missed initially. Even the public nature of the case has prompted important conversations about financial transparency in relationships. None of this justifies what happened, but it transforms the narrative from simple victimhood to something more empowering, using painful experience to create meaningful safeguards for others. Back home, I find an unexpected delivery, a small package from Margaret containing Daniel's grandmother's pearl earrings with a note. These should belong to someone with true integrity. She would have wanted you to have them. The gesture touches me deeply. Despite everything, the connection with Daniel's family remains, transformed but not destroyed by his actions. Their ability to separate his behavior from their relationship with me speaks to a capacity for nuance that Daniel himself always lacked. I place the earrings in my jewelry box, not as a memento of my failed marriage, but as a symbol of the unexpected bonds that survived its dissolution. My security system alerts me to another attempt by Daniel to access financial records, this time from the detention center's computer system. Even now, beginning his sentence, He's searching for overlooked assets or accounts that might have escaped the comprehensive freeze and recovery. There are none. The system designed to detect his manipulations continues to monitor for exactly these attempts, each one documented and added to the case file. I send a brief message to William. Final attempt logged. Pattern continues. William's response comes quickly. Some people never learn. Others teach us more than they ever intended. As I prepare for bed, I catch my reflection in the bedroom. Mirror. I look different now. Not just the external changes of a new haircut and wardrobe that no longer caters to Daniel's preferences, but something more fundamental in my expression and posture. The woman who stands alone is not diminished by abandoning the performance of being Daniel's wife. She is enhanced by embracing her authentic self, observant, methodical, patient. For years, I allowed Daniel to underestimate me because it suited his narrative. I became the person he needed me to be in his story, rather than insisting on being fully seen. That complicity was my mistake. One I won't repeat. Tomorrow brings new responsibilities as Chief Risk Officer, new systems to implement, new vulnerabilities to identify before they become exposures. The skills that documented Daniel's betrayal now strengthen an entire institution against similar threats. The quiet observation he dismissed as passivity has become recognized as one of my greatest professional strengths. In the end, Daniel's most consequential error wasn't the financial fraud or even the infidelity. It was his fundamental failure to recognize that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one you've trained yourself not to see. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.